Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shinobazu. I'm your gaming and anime ninja, and welcome to my first impressions or early thoughts of DeathGarden. So, Behavior Entertainment, the guys behind Dead by Daylight, as well as a few other games that I know of, or at least I don't know of, whatever, have decided to drop the closed offer for the new upcoming game, DeathGarden. And I'm here to tell you guys what I thought about it. Put in about 30 hours into the game, so didn't go too crazy. Between 30 and 40, didn't go too crazy with it, but I had some fun. Got a lot of gameplay footage and hung out with a lot of other people playing it, so I think it's pretty easy to make a first impression on how I thought of the game. Most game reviewers only spend about 20 hours of the game, so since I doubled that, I feel like I can at least give my thoughts on the alpha build. Alright, so first and foremost, I want to say this is probably like the best alpha I've played in a long time. Being a content creator, I run into a lot of different alpha builds, if you will. Some of them being no more than like our proof of concept and just running around with blocks, and some of them just being glorified alphas so they can, pitch it to early access and convince people that it's worth to buy and then never finish the game. Looking at you, Daisy. But that being said, this, for my opinion at least, ran amazingly well. I looked gorgeous while I was playing. I ran at 60 frames a second on my PC, and even though I have a pretty high-end rig, it is pretty old, so to be able to run at such a high frame rate while, still being an old computer and me streaming or recording at the same time, I feel like it's pretty good. Much better than, even in my honest opinion, games like Dead by Daylight run now, which is interesting considering they're made by the same company, and I feel like this is a lot more going on, but I could be wrong. But it ran great. I was able to boot it up without issue. Was able to get in the game pretty quick, whether I decided to play runners or hunters. So regardless which side of the game I decided to play, I was able to get in, do what I wanted to do, and get out without too much issue. So I had to thank them for that, because again, like I said, it's been a while since I've played something that was in alpha that ran this smooth for a long time. I think the last game I played that said alpha, besides hide and seek, was 100% just a proof of concept, was Hunt Showdown. And although Hunt Showdown personally looked amazing, it ran like hot garbage for like the first few days. I just kind of sat through it because I enjoyed the game so much. So it was very refreshing to have an alpha that could actually load up properly on my PC. That was cool. If I had any complaints about any early hiccups or issues with the game, it would probably just be the lack of survivor friends out of the gate. Now, admittedly, they did patch this before the alpha was open and set it up to where it had this going in it. But the first day of playing the game, after the first few hours, everyone got over just playing and everyone was trying to play with their friends. Since there was no viable survivor friends, people were joining lobbies and immediately dodging lobbies so that they could basically try to queue up again to get their friends in their lobby so they could play with friends. There's a reason for that, and I don't necessarily blame people for doing it, but it made it pretty hard for people who were just trying to jump in and play later in the day. Like myself, I generally stream later in the evening, and it made it really hard for us to just get a normal game straight up to go through, just due to the amount of people dodging to play Survivor Friends. But like I said, before the alpha was even over, they managed to patch that in so that we could do that. So good on them for that. Next thing, and I think this is pretty important, just go over some of the basics of the game. Essentially, DeathGarden plays the asymmetrical third-person / first-person shooter. The runners play in a third-person view, while the hunters play in a first-person view, similar to Dead by Daylight. The map, from what I could see, felt a lot larger than your typical Dead by Daylight map. I'd say maybe about the size of your standard Call of Duty map, or somewhere between Call of Duty and Battlefield. Not quite as big as Battlefield, but a little bigger than your average Call of Duty map even. But they were a lot of fun, and one of the most interesting things about it is the amount of verticality in this map. But the basis of the game is you have 5 runners competing up against 1 hunter. The runners work somewhat similar to the survivors from Dead by Daylight, with a bit of a Mirror's Edge twist, as where the hunters play a little bit more like your killers from Dead by Daylight, but with their abilities and how they're able to interact with the map, they feel a bit more like your mech Call of Duty soldier or your Destiny Guardian, if you've ever played that game. So that's how the game, at least for me, that's what the gameplay felt like from that perspective. The job of the runners is to basically capture two out of the three objective points around the map, and which will open the gates for the runners to escape. And then after the gates are open, at least 3 of the runners have to escape alive in order for the team to win. So the runners do win as a team and lose as a team. As for the hunter, your job is to simply kill at least 3 runners, meaning that if there's only 5 and you kill 3, 3 can't escape. To do this, you have to down them multiple times. After downing them a number of times, you can send them to an execution post, and if you can run and execute them to permanently remove them from the game. Or they can bleed out, among other things. But as long as there's at least not 3 hunters or runners who make it out alive, then the hunters win the game. So, what was it like being a runner? Admittedly, this is where I spent a lot of my time. I think runner was actually rather difficult, especially early on, because I think just based on the current balancing they had, they very much balanced the runners around them being able to communicate and work together. Quick side note, something I wish they had in the patch, at least somewhere, whether it be a tip or, in the controls, but they really didn't have it listed anywhere. But it is possible for voice communication between runners, and they did not tell anyone that you could do that. I think someone ended up finding out the voice comms was V. It would cause some issues if you spoke too much during the game, but 100% being a runner, you need to communicate with the other players if you're going to get anything done. But it was actually a lot of fun. It was very exhilarating. It reminded me very much of early DBD. If anyone played that, you felt like you had a lot of control over your character. Again, there's a lot of verticality in the game along with just forward running. So, there's nothing necessarily there's nothing you can use in the map currently, at least, to impede the hunters while they're chasing you. But you've got a lot of tall grass that you can easily hide in. There's cubbies, there's holes, there's caves, there's trees, all sorts of things you can run up and down or hide here and there to actually avoid the killer. But it is very much, especially early game, very much more of a game of hide and seek. The hunter does have a decent tool set to find you, but as long as you're paying attention to what's going on the map and what's been marked and what's not been marked, it isn't too hard to hide as a runner, at least for the beginning of the game. Once things get going, however, though, it is a bit harder once, the hunters had some time to mark some things on the map and set up some traps for you. The runners themselves, at least in the alpha, were set up into 3 different classes. There was a support class, there was a torment class, and then there was a control class. Each one has different abilities and can interact with the other runners and the hunter in different ways. Having a mix of these, I think, is very important for every runner team, which again is why I think communication is extremely important, because you need to communicate which class you'll be going and make sure you know how to support your team in that way. The support class pretty much acts as it is. It's kind of the medic / shielding class. While you're playing, you can grab boxes. This works for all the classes, but you can grab boxes to get upgrades. And the upgrades that the support class get is a range heal and a range shield. The heal levels up over time to be able to go as far as even res down teammates from a distance. So instead of having to be close to them when they go down, you can actually just shoot them from a distance to res them, which is really good. And the shield just gets a larger radius and much more powerful, and actually able to help defend against damage against the hunter, which is really important, because without it, in a lot of cases, the hunter's more powerful weapons like shotgun or sniper can down you in 1 to 2 shots if you're not shielded properly. So the shield doesn't last forever, but if you're going in for a save, or it just happens to be a hunter attacking you or attacking a nearby ally, popping a shield can make the difference between them getting out alive or them getting sent to the blood post to get killed. So I think having at least one support is going to be mandatory for most teams. Once I saw 5-man groups, I saw a lot more groups running 2 supports. That way they could have the support that's there to pick up the other support, and then have them split up so that they're able to support the team or throughout the map, and not just having one guy responsible for keeping everybody up and shielded up when dealing with the hunter. The next class that the runners have to choose from is called the Torment. This class provides 2 major duties for the team. First, he has a tracker ability. This allows him, if he fires and hits the hunter, allows him to track the hunter, and as he levels it up, it also gives this information to both other runners. So he can goes from him being able to track the hunter to the entire team being able to see the track hunter, to the entire team being able to see not only the tracked hunter but what his current setup is, so they can see how much ammo he has, what weapon he's currently using, and what the cooldown is on his other abilities, so they know what to be aware of and what to be on the lookout for. This one I don't think there'll be necessarily as many of, but it's still very important, obviously, to be able to know what the hunter's doing, and in high tense situations be able to know exactly where the hunter's at, so you can make decisions well in advance on how to deal with them. Again, the hunter is extremely powerful, so a direct conflict doesn't always necessarily end in a runner's favor. With that in mind, I think it's much better for the Torment to be able to let the people know where he is. He also has a secondary ability, which is called Virus. Fortunately, throughout the majority of my playtime, I wasn't positive. There wasn't 100% positive of what this did. We do know that it slows down his actions. It makes it harder or make it take longer for him to interact with things. So whether it be grabbing ammo, sending someone to a blood post, or executing somebody, it makes these actions take longer, and it also disrupts his HUD at higher levels. So this would be good for situations in the sense of like making it harder for him to find where to go to get his infinite ammo crate, or remembering where to go to see how points are doing or what points are being taken, or just knowing where to go to get to get an executioner with a blood post. Again, I feel like for the Torment, this will probably be the most used one for them, just because it's a great disruption for them. It slows them down, buys the team time for them to know where to go, what they're doing, and makes it a little bit harder for him to finish things off, like executing runners or things like that, and gives runners the ability to have the time they need to actually make saves. Because again, direct confrontation isn't always the best way for the runners to win the game. It's set up to be more of a last resort, so this kind of helps them buy more time, both by knowing when he's coming and being able to slow him down on his approach, and things like that are gearing back up in order to continue to attack the runners. So the last runner class is going to be the Control. This is the one that I personally had the most fun with, but will probably be one of the more sought after ones. This is the one that has the most direct, I guess you could say, interaction with the hunter itself. This class generally has two major abilities. A stun, it's a short stun, only about a half-second stun, but it's a stun that you can be used to hit the hunter to actually stun and interrupt any action he's doing or anything like that. So like execution, ammo, blood posting, even reloading or anything like that, which is really good. And they also have a slow. The slow locks him in place, so doesn't allow him to move, or not so much move, but extremely reduces his movement to a particular dome of area for about 2 seconds, but also drastically reduces his rate of fire, as well as his reload speed and movement speed. So his rate of fire, his movement speed, and his reload speed is reduced by 25%, and it kind of doesn't necessarily stop him from moving entirely, but drastically slows his movement while inside the bubble for a short period of time. I believe that is only about 2 seconds as well. This, again, is probably the most direct interaction. Generally, most teams I saw ran at least 2 controls. This could change up, but generally just for the simple fact of like being able to stun him when he's about to kill somebody, stunning him to slow him down to help finish take points, or just to help secure their escape or secure the escape of other players when they're not being targeted. And the slow is extremely powerful and extremely important for preventing the hunter from being able to execute people or down players quickly. Again, whether it be using a shotgun, a sniper, or a machine gun, or assault rifle, I should say, the runner does a lot of damage very quickly. So slowing down his rate of fire by 25% is a huge help for both all the players or all the runners in the field. So I do think it was really important for them to have a max of different classes and have different classes, have the runner or the stunner control there, you could say. We always call him the stunner, but basically having the control there to basically disrupt the hunter in serious situations. If you're making a save, making an escape, or anything else like that in between, having a control there who can essentially do something to control the hunter for a short period of time is, I think, very important. Now that we've spoken about the different classes in general, I think it's important to understand that, yes, teamwork is very important. No one man can do everything in this game. If you have 5 supports, you won't be able to stop the hunter from basically just running up and killing everybody. If you have 5 controls, you might be able to stun lock them, but the stun does have a diminishing return, and he is immune to like each of those abilities for a period of time after hitting it, and you have limited ammo. So with that in mind, having 5 people trying to stun lock him isn't always going to work either. With that in mind, I think that teamwork is going to be very important for this game. I do like the fact that I have in-game communication available in the game. However, with that in mind, they're also balancing with in-game communication in mind, meaning if you aren't talking to your team in one way or another, you guys will probably fall behind and lose very quickly. Transferring information to each other, what the hunter's doing, where the hunter's at, who's down, who needs help, who needs assistance, on what side of the map, when they're capping, when it's safe for them to cap, where the hunter's at if he's not currently revealed. I think all these things and all this information is going to be very important to a runner team if they're planning on winning versus an experienced hunter. They did make him very powerful. So it was like, with that in mind, I think it is very important to, like, you do work as a team, and if you're going to be playing this game and going to be spending a lot of time with this game, I think it's probably going to be best that you find people that you enjoy playing the game with and try to work out a team comp and playing as a team with them, because I think that's pretty much what this game is going to be about. How often did I win? For me personally, playing runner, playing solo queue runner, I'd say I probably had about a 33% win rate. Say we for sure won one every 3 games. It was pretty much just if I got a toss up of whether or not we got competent people, or if we got early on. I think everyone was just kind of learning, but as things went on, it was very clear this could be, not including the fact that we had, a lot of DCs, a lot of people would go down and immediately quit. A lot of people were trying to snipe friends, or, maybe they're just alpha crashed, whatever it was. But we weren't always playing a game, 5-on-1 as it should be. So keeping that in mind, we probably only had about, say, somewhere between a 25 to 33% win rate. So 1 out of every 3 games when just in the pure solo queue we won. But again, a lot of DCs, a lot of disconnects, a lot of people just, not knowing how to play the game because they're still really new and not knowing how to even interact with the hunter or, what they should be doing. So owing to the win rate was very high. However, I will say that once they did add Survivor Friends into the game, as I played with a 5-man squad, I'd say our win rate probably went from about that random of 25 to 33 to probably about 80%, if not more. There was only, once we had a full 5-man, or even just with, a decent 3 or 4-man, I think the chances of us, like, losing the game went down drastically once we were communicating. And once we knew what we needed to do and we're communicating where we were at and what was going on, we only lost maybe a handful of games. And even then, most of those were relatively close games. Even if we did lose, it wasn't like, we got stomped on. It was very much like he got the last kill by the skin of his teeth or something like that. So we had a couple throws, but they were mostly just us memeing around, having fun with the game too, to be completely honest. But not including the intentional throws at the end of the game, I'd still say we probably had about an 80 to 90% win rate with a full squad. We'll have to see when this game comes out. Next, when the beta comes around, there'll probably be a lot more hunters who know what they're doing. So it'll be a lot more interesting to see how those hunters who know what they're doing fare against survivors or runners who know how to play with each other and have a basic understanding of the game and are communicating with each other. So that'll be interesting for sure. All right, now that we've talked about what it means like to be a runner, let's talk about what it was like being a hunter. Personally, playing the hunter was very similar and reminiscent of playing a Master Chief or a Spartan from Halo 5. That was the last game I would say felt a lot like it. More like an empowered Spartan. Or if you played any of the Call of Duty where you had like advanced soldiers or whatever, where they could do like wall running or things like that. There wasn't too much of that, but just the speed in which you're able to move across the map, how high you were able to jump, and then just the way your weapons responded. It very much reminded me of like a Halo Destiny vibe more than anything else. So the hunters are set up to be more of a super soldier than just your typical Call of Duty guy or anything like that, or Battlefield soldier, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because the maps are big enough and the runners have more than enough options on their own. I feel like, at least off the bat, but it was interesting for sure. Hunters have a lot of different tools. They have a speed boost which they can activate based on stamina that drastically increases their speed, I think 2 to 3 times. And like drastically increases like their rate of how high they can jump and things like that. They also have an AoE like stun. It's about a circle stun. that helps, flush out anybody who's hiding really close to you. Depending on what you spec into, you also get the option of automated turrets or proximity mines. Both are extremely strong. We'll get to the turrets a bit more, but the turrets pretty much have like auto tracking and do an insane amount of damage. So even if you don't see the runners, a lot of the time the turrets will. The other thing was you have a choice of two between either basically an automatic shotgun, or I guess a semi-auto shotgun, I guess is what it would feel like, a sniper rifle, and a assault rifle. The sniper rifle I feel like is probably going to be like one of the strongest weapons of the game. Basically works very similar to the Halo 2 or Halo sniper rifle if you've ever used it, but I believe it has a larger clip and a lot less kick. So that was a thing. Double tapping people from across the room was very common, or across the map was very common against experienced hunters. I'd watch players do crazy god snipes that would just two tap you or single tap you from across the map, and it was like before you knew it, it was like I said, it was the sniper rifle shot very quickly. So a lot of different types of weapons there. Like I said, they have a sprint, they have the AoE stun, and they have the turrets and the mines. So they had quite a few things at their disposal to help them find the runners and kill them. And even though it is a huge map, they have no trouble traversing that map very quickly. When it came to the runner games, admittedly, I didn't play too many, but of the few I did, I don't think I lost a single one. This was true for most of the streamers I know who stuck to Hunter gameplay. I know one of my friends over the course of the whole alpha played about 230 games. He won about 225 and only lost 5. And of the five he lost, 4 of them were on the first day. And the last one, then he got like over 200 wins straight and lost 1 game during the last day. So very, very interesting game. But it is easy to say that hunters are not weak at this point in the game. Again, this could do a lot to do with, people not knowing how to play the game, along with there not being survivor friends right off the jump, and then even if there were, just survivor friends not actually coordinating properly. Again, it's still people learning how to play the game. Inversely, like I said, me personally having a 100% win rate, not that I played too many games, but having a 100% win rate compared to playing runner, where I think at best when I was doing a 4-man survivor friends only having an 80% win rate, thinks that there is quite a skill cap to reach there. Admittedly, I should have played some hunter, but I didn't get a chance to play any hunter when the survivor friends went up, so I don't know if that would have made it any big difference to me personally. But I know at the time when everyone's still learning and no one really knowing how to communicate, if they aren't extremely coordinated, it's not very hard to kill or beat everyone as the hunter, in my personal opinion at the moment. But we'll see. As I said, still early on and it was still alpha. But to explain how often I won, I guess you could say I won a lot. So overall, I've had a lot of fun playing the game. A lot of good, a lot of bad. Actually, not a lot of bad, but mostly good. Personally, I feel like when the game comes out, just being a survivor, I don't think it's just that I'm survivor main from Dead by Daylight, but I do feel like runner has a lot more challenge to it personally, and I felt more rewarded from playing runner than I did from playing hunter. So when the game drops, I feel like I'll probably end up being a runner main. Who knows? We'll see. We'll try to mix things up during the beta, see if I like that more. Again, I also didn't play much hunter just due to queue times and things like that, so maybe there'll be better queue times during the next beta or when the game comes out, and I'll end up loving hunter just as much. And again, we only got to use a fraction of a lot of the abilities and things available to us, so there might be a lot more to hunter that makes it appeal more to me than what it has right now. But that being said, I'll probably end up being a runner main if I do play the game. In fact, I intend to pick it up, so when the game comes out, I'll probably be a runner main. But again, who knows? The next thing is, do we think hunter's OP? I do think hunter needs to be tuned. I think hunter's extremely strong as he is for people not knowing what they're doing with him. So I think once people have a decent grasp of how to play them, or if say someone like Shroud or someone who's just really good at first-person shooters were to get hands on a hunter, they would be considered overpowered in the sense of they'd have more than what they need in their kit to do what they need to do and then some. I don't think necessarily it needs to be tweaked too much because the hunter I still feel like should be powerful, but I think having multiple things that can one-shot runners from across the map is a little inappropriate. My honest thoughts would maybe be, a little bit more recoil on the sniper and a little bit slower rate of fire, at least off the jump. The only thing I really would like dealt with was maybe some sort of limiter on the turrets and on the proximity mines. Proxy mines I think are great for flushing people out and for like setting up defenses, but I think being able to spam like 6 proxy mines around the blood post or the execution post and then making it extremely hard for the runners to be able to interact with the proxy mine to be able to make any type of save, and while the hunter not being able to basically walk freely with them, I think is a little bit much. Maybe obviously you can't kill the hunter, but maybe add some sort of like interaction damage if the hunter's in the blast radius of the mine when it goes off as well, to where he's stunned for being in it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like it doesn't affect the runners, but he has to somewhat be careful where he places them. He can't just place a mine and stand in the center of it and be okay, if that makes sense, or get no penalty for that. And as for the turrets, I think they do need to be nerfed. Personally, two changes I like to see would be a larger hitbox for the turrets. One of the things they did do is the bullets and the arrows the runners use is actually very precise, but also very small like hitboxes. And the turrets have like an immediate lock-on like shooting. There's no like turning or anything like that, so it doesn't give runners much time to outplay to attack an unsupervised turret. And I would not be surprised to see that a turret be able to 1v1 inexperienced players of the game, or even barely experienced players of the game. It has an extremely high rate of fire. It does a lot of damage, and if you just stand out in the open and trade with the turret, you would lose, which I can understand to an extent, but they don't necessarily give you a way to work around that. It has an extremely long range, and if you are out somewhere where it can see you, it's just immediately on you. There's no turning or any gaming around cover to shoot it or get some sort of advantage on it, so there is some counterplay to it. I think that having that would still make it strong in open areas like defending the blood post or things like that, or being able to suss out runners hiding in the grass. But being able to just simply put a turret down and have it be able to like instantly find players halfway across the map, I think is a bit much for what it should be able to do. Again, just my personal opinion, but from my experience, if I was in line of sight of it, even if it was like really far away, like I'd say a football field or 2 football fields away, if I was in line of sight of it, it could still shoot me, which made it really hard to deal with, especially because honestly there was times where it could see and shoot me and I had no idea where it was because of the distance it was from. So I feel like that may have been a little inappropriate, but that's just me personally. Now, do I think Survivor Friends is OP? At the moment, no. I personally think that Survivor Friends is, I don't want to say necessarily exactly where it needs to be because we didn't play too many good hunters, so it's hard for me to say. However, what I will say is that the game is very much being designed around people being able to communicate. And I think to win as runners, you're going to need to be able to play with people you have synergy with, which is going to encourage Survivor Friends, not necessarily discourage it. Admittedly, I will say with my team, we did bully a few hunters, but that could have been a combination of them just learning the characters and us, along with us knowing what we're doing. But I think if it was us versus a decent hunter, I think it would be a good matchup. The few we did get usually were really close games and did end up resulting in a few losses, although they did end up in a few losses for us. So I think it's kind of in a good spot. I don't think it's OP, nowhere near as OP as say Survivor Friends and Dead by Daylight is, because like I said, communication is key in this game, and the game is balanced around it. So I don't think that it'll be an issue being able to communicate with each other. And so yeah, I think things will obviously be up in the air in terms of meta. But in the week that the game was out and we saw people running, I think comps for runners will probably be somewhere along the lines of 2 supports, 2 torments, or 2 supports, 2 controls, and 1 torment was the most common like runner setup I saw. Another common runner setup I did see though was 1 support, 1 torment, and 3 controls, which is also really powerful versus a hunter, allowing the torment and basically the torment and the support to kind of wander the middle of the map and basically heal and harass the killer or the hunter, while the 3 controls each controlling their own point and being able to stun and slow the hunter on their own. to be able to make their own escapes with the help of the support from a distance as well as the torment from a distance. So you'll see some mix up there. I don't think you'll see any like 5 control Ts or 5 torment Ts though. I don't think 5 torment is strong. I don't think 5 support is strong, and I don't think 5 control is weak. But I don't think 5 control will be viable versus a hunter who can down players quickly. If you don't have anyone that's providing support in terms of shields, or providing support in terms of healing, or even just disruption outside of the stuns, since the stuns do have a diminishing return and he does get an immunity period after getting stunned, I don't think having 5 people like shooting stuns at him is going to be that strong. I could be wrong there, but I don't think so just yet. But you know, you never know. We have seen 5 bastions in Overwatch work before they changed that, so you never know there. I'd have to say overall, I enjoyed playing the alpha a lot. I had a lot of fun. It was sad to leave. I'm pretty sure me and Spaceland were some of the last, 2 to 3 people online. I believe me, Spaceland, and AOPJ were some of the last people online streaming it for sure. We're the last 2 streaming it. Whether or not we're the last 3 playing, I'm not too sure. But we stayed pretty much until they shut it down. But I did have a lot of fun, especially for an alpha. It was extremely polished. The games were quick, even though there were crashes and some bugs. It didn't take long for us to get back into our game. If they can keep that kind of like queue time and, in the game time, you know what I mean, as low in the game fully launches, I think the game will be in a really good spot and do really well. Games like this do well when you can kind of go into, just like Fortnite or PUBG, where you can go into your next match like quickly and get into your next match quick. I think a lot more people enjoy it and have a lot more fun there. But it was fun. I had a blast. I know a lot of people are sad to see it go, and a lot of us can't wait for it to come back in June, so we'll just have to see what things are like when we get to the beta. My personal hopes for the game, I hope that Survivor Friends is working out of the gate. I hope they have a retained Survivor Friends lobby so we're not having to re-queue every time. There's a lot of things that Dead by Daylight, their previous game, got away with for being so good. But also having, kind of the name backing and just the ease of explainability to where it was like very simple to pick up, but it kind of helped people stick through it, I guess, stick through the hard times. I don't necessarily know that DeathGarden will be given that same liberty, so with that in mind, I hope there is a big focus on getting Survivor Friends working out of the gate, making sure there's no issues there, making sure that people can stay in lobby with each other so they're not having to re-queue up or regroup up before every game, and just get rid of all of those hiccups very early on. And I also hope they deal with, things like hackers. There's obviously going to be bugs and things like that, but I hope they deal with those things quickly and swiftly, and honestly to an extent publicly, just to make sure people know that it won't be tolerated. And they do a good job of keeping the community clean, and I think it has some it's a good future. Any final thoughts? I can't wait for the game. I'm really excited to play it. I'll be in the beta, which if you haven't already signed up, I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to sign up for the beta. It's going to be in June. But yeah, it's a really good game. I enjoyed it was a refreshing way to play the game, and I think they've done a lot to give people the tools to actually counter a lot of the things and a lot of the frustrations that people had with previous games like Dead by Daylight. Being able to actually legitimately be able to hide from the person they're supposed to be hiding from, instead of just being told that they should hide from them and whatnot and what have you. So like I said, I'm excited. Hopefully they keep the polish that it has. We played it at 60 frames during the alpha. I'd hope to keep it at 60 frames during the beta and keep it at 60 frames when it drops. Obviously there's going to be some optimizations, but hopefully they don't lose any optimization along the way while trying to make things look pretty or anything like that. I think it looks good as it is. Not that I wouldn't want improvements, but hopefully they don't ruin what they have while trying to make it look pretty, if that makes sense. But other than that, that's all I really have to think about DeathGarden for now. I do plan on playing it. When the beta comes out, I'll be doing, I guess, a comprehensive guide on how to play each particular runner class, and maybe even a basic hunter guide. But until then, that's pretty much all I had to say on this. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know anyone else interested in DeathGarden, please share the video, let them know what I thought, and share your own thoughts below if you have any. But outside of that, if there's anything else you guys are looking for from DeathGarden that I didn't talk about here, or I think that I should have mentioned but didn't bring up, please bring it up in the comments down below. But until next time, I'm your gaming anime ninja, Shinobazu. I'll see you guys later, alright? Deuces.